really, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she said she wanted to meet you, but she's gonna come back, and so I just wanted to let you know.
I will make it
When
my
she
mission,
does,
Mr. Floyd. I'll make it my mission. You just keep me posted.
I shall. I
Cause look,
shall.
I know my people be wanting to meet you too.
Oh no, sister, they
Listen, baby, you was a celebrity when you came to my daughter's graduation. She was look, them people was glad to see the Elmer Floyd at the graduation party.
yeah, but they no, many of them see me as, and I say it all the time, as a doormat. You know, when you got to wipe your feet off to come in the door, so they just wipe their feet off and keep on going. Don't even realize I'm down there.
No, my people see you as an icon. You are iconic, sir.
Okay, well, thank you, Nancy.
Mr. Floyd, how you been doing? Everything, you making it? You all right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So far,
What
so good, so good so far.
what you got for us? What's the announcements this week?
Well, the Women's Enrollment Improvement Group, this is the time that they sort of bring themselves together, the old, the young, and the new, so they're planning that, and hopefully that it'll be the Memorial Day weekend. They're in the planning process, and after that, they will have a gospel program, which will probably be at First, Second Baptist, or Friendship the following Sunday. So that's in the planning stage. And the senior Democrat, is planning their open town hall meeting, and that would be at the congressional town hall meeting.
Is
That would
this that is this the empty seat meeting?
uh yes, and yes, it is. Are you hosting that?
No.
Okay, then.
My thing was, Mr. Floyd, this was my thing. First of all, I'm not a Democrat. Secondly, I don't have a problem with our elected officials at this point, and I feel like when you're trying to set people up, don't use me to do it
Well,
because
I just asked, was you hosting it? That's all that I asked you.
my response when I was asked was if those individuals have written confirmation that they're going to be in attendance, I would be happy to host. I've not received any word that they've gotten that.
Okay, well, it's gonna be April the 22nd at the VFW on Chance Street. So
Right.
that's something that open seat, and it probably will be. My understanding is that they invited the congressional persons, and also the local delegation. So how that
I'll tell
work
you
out?
one person I'm pretty sure is gonna show up.
Who's that?
That person that took out the whole the front page of the
Oh, no doubt about that. I mean, no doubt about that. I
Mr.
think that.
Floyd. When I saw that, it made my skin crawl, and I'm gonna tell you why. I don't have any problem with the person being preemptive with their marketing materials or getting a jump on getting their message out. But it is very, very it says something when you feel the necessity to fill the entire front page. It's a character comment when
Well,
you have the entire front page, including the upper right hand corner.
well, Teeth, it's all about politics. How can I reach the constituents
Mr. Floyd,
that I
that's all
want?
about look at me, look at me.
Well, I mean, that's politics. That's what runs our community, and that's what make our community and our community vote. They don't care too much. And two-person you can ask that's the chairman of the county board of commissioner and myself. It doesn't matter. If you can razzle and dazzle us, we're gonna vote for you. I mean,
But that doesn't see, and this is the thing. I don't know that that necessarily razzles and dazzles our community.
yes, it does, Chief.
That right? Were you razzled and dazzled by that?
Now, I'm a different kind of politician. It takes more than this for me,
For
but
me,
for our community,
right?
they go by name recognition and how much you can uh and your marketing there. But this is going to be a very expensive mayor race, irregardless, because
And I have a feeling that the person who spends the most money is not going to be the winner of the election. I,
Yeah.
I have a feeling that that will not be the case. I want to show y'all before we move on. I want to show y'all my T-shirt because I absolutely love it. I loved when I went to out to Tuskegee to visit this school.
Mm.
I loved my experience. And I just want to remind everybody that there are some schools out here that our children should definitely be taking a look at. If you have a child that wants to be, I just feel compelled to share this. If you have a child that wants to be a veterinarian, absolutely consider trying to track them to Tuskegee University. They have one of the best veterinarian training programs, and it's nestled in a, it's Alabama's not
Mm.
highfalutin, but it's definitely nestled within the community, and the campus is
Is,
cute and all the things. But I just love this shirt, so I just wanted to shout out Tuskegee
is
University.
is that not where Reverend Troy Williams' daughter attended veterinary school? I believe so. I believe I believe
I,
that is
but I
within
can
that.
tell you this: I know that his daughter is a very successful veterinarian, and
Yeah,
I
that,
think you are correct. And I think that she is now practicing oncology as a veterinarian, and
yeah.
she is killing the game. So, I mean, it doesn't matter who your parents are; you can go on to do great things. So, she to me, she is the she's the pinnacle of what some of these young people ought to be attaining to achieve. And I believe you are correct that she did go there. I know my goddaughter goes there.
Okay.
My goddaughter, Camila Ingram, she's not in the vet program, but she is a junior this year at Tuskegee University, and she's doing a great job. She's going to be an engineer when she grows up, and I'm just rooting for her. I'm cheering for her, Mr. Floyd. But back to the Fayetteville Press, I want to put a pin in that by saying, um, I know JJ is about making that money. That's what that paper is about. It's an advertising paper. I just wish that this wasn't what we had to be greeted by this month. I walked into a facility and I said, "Oh, look, I picked it up. I was like, "Oh, good job, Mario. You got the jump." When I picked it up and looked at the whole thing in totality, it was a turn off for me. But that's just for me.
It's just the way it is. You got to use whatever marketing tool available to reach.
Now, Floyd, you're right. And I tell you, when he launched his video and had everybody in front of City Hall, I said, "Oh, he's about to give them a digital run for their money,"
Yeah.
because he's that demographic who knows how to use all of that, and who it's easy for him to put these things together and make it look like he's bankrolled by a whole lot of money. Now, make no mistake about it. Let's be very clear. His wife is the daughter of a high profile attorney in our community. In fact, if you go back and read the City View Today articles that talked about the um the Barnhart debacle under Mayor Colvin and my tenure, his wife's father is either the attorney that was quoted. I think Gregory is her father, right?
Yes.
Was quoted in articulating that, if I'm not mistaken, and I got to go back and read it to get it correctly, but you to get it correct, but y'all can go read it for yourself. I'm pretty sure that he articulated that Rand is the one who brought that deal into our community in the first place. So there's a connection even in that goes back to Barnhart. So I just don't want anybody to get it twisted that these people who have these bankrolls to finance these big campaigns, they are connected to some of the highest profile conversations that we've had in this community in a very long time. So I'm expecting that he is going to have quite a bit of resources that will flow into and through his campaign as a result of his connections.
Well, I mean, one thing that we have to understand that if you're going to run for office, sincerely run for office, you are going to also have to have some of your own upfront money. That convince other people to support you.
Which
Now,
won't
if you
That's
want,
not going to be a problem for him.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, but any body of people want to see if you're sincere. If you're gonna put up some of your own money, don't announce that you're gonna run and want me to be the first person to contribute to your campaign. It just doesn't make sense, But if I know that When I see that first finance report and I read it and I see where you have contributed, then I look at the names that are around your name and your contribution.
Right. And let me, because I want to clean this up, I want to make sure I nail this correctly. So, Randy Gregory attended meetings at the request of former state senator Tony Rand, who encouraged Bernhard Capital Partners to pursue a public private relationship with Fayetteville. So, that was the genesis of the Bernhard Capital conversation that has gone on in this community. That was the subject of my resignation and has been the subject of a
Well,
lot of questions about ethics in our city council for at least 5 years now.
well, you have to look at the thing about some of us have greater vision than others.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's that.
And
That's
some of
how.
us have connections that are just immeasurable. Like, we've got great connections that permit us the opportunity to help execute the vision.
And that's the key.
And you cannot be mad at that.
No, no, no,
And
I'm not.
and you also cannot forget.
No, no, I'm
You
not.
cannot forget. What
I
other
mean,
announcements do we have, Floyd?
the other is that Fayetteville State is on, I think it's the 25th, is going to go through the renaming of building after their founders. So that will be on the 25th between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. So if you're about, if you're in the area, please, just go and see the various name changes of facility buildings in honor of the founders of the university there.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that that's out there, I think that the county is going to schedule another meeting so in that the board would have an opportunity to review 1,000-page document in both an open session and closed session. Do you know how, Lord? Now, just just 500 pages. When you're going by what you call a rim of paper, that's 500 pages.
500 pages.
And so if it's front and back, now if it's single pages, then it's two stacks of that.
Hmm.
And I just wonder, just how this is going to,
That's a very
how much the
detailed
public,
report.
yeah, how much the public will have access to that. Uh, now,
Well, then let's talk about it because, Mr. Floyd, this conversation heretofore has been taking place in closed session. The Cumberland County Board of Commissioner adheres to North Carolina's open meeting law, which mandates that official meetings of public bodies be open to the public with certain exceptions. Here are those exceptions: preventing the disclosure of privileged or confidential information, consulting with an attorney to preserve the attorney client privilege, discussing matters related to the location or expansion of industries or businesses in the area, considering the negotiation of contracts, discussing personnel matters concerning specific employees, considering the terms of real property acquisition. Now, listening to that, we can find several areas where this conversation may fall into attorney client privilege classifications. And most certainly, all of them are very interesting as we consider this 1,000-page document. So, you raise a good question. How much of that will become outward facing for the public? What are the topics of conversation that are being discussed on this project, which has already broken ground? And likely, had the players not changed on the board of commissioners, would still be moving forward without any additional conversation.
well, the question remain is that I would just assume that the 1,000-page document is somewhat confidential. So I don't believe that there'll be a lot of discussions because it's hard to scramble those eggs, out of that discussion process there. But after you indicate that the project can move forward, but it will be somewhat of the late, the finished of that project. I, I'm just wondering, 1,000 page in 30 days.
That's a
Now
lot of content for a month.
that's a lot of research, that, and it's going to be very difficult for a body. I think they're going to do it April the 14th, I believe. Is
And
it
I
when they
think
come
that's
up?
why even Senator, I keep wanting to call him Senator Devier. That's why Commissioner Devier asserted that they needed more time to allow the board to digest this information.
That's a lot when you're dealing with confidentiality,
Hmm.
uh, there, and so, but the other but comes with it is that you're dealing with something that the group, when it first gave the county a wrong estimate. Okay, so
Hmm.
the county sent them back and said, "Could you bring it in line?" Okay, with
Hmm.
our $145 million.
Right,
Well, so far, how you going to address the issue is that you're already 35 million into the 145 million, and you still got a parking deck which is $30 million that you're going to complete. And anyone that knows that have a shovel know that you're going to have some cost overrun.
right,
So you're talking about cost overrun. It's going to be between 5 million and $15 million, given the cost of the day. So the question, might be, the county might say, do we need to build at this location, or do we need to look for other sites where that we can do a consolidated effort? Or because this is a lot of money, and on top of that, you have $806 million worth of school construction project
right.
and a $1 billion worth of water and sewer project. So I can see why the county is taking these steps to review, to make sure that everything is in order, because you already done paid for one drawing, architect drawing. You pay for a second, and if you go and move it or do something else, then there's another third cost. So how you scramble those eggs? Chief?
Right. You can't.
Uh, you know that's a lot, because you don't want the architect to go back and come back again,
Right.
because he is not going to do it free.
Right. And Mr. Floyd, you made mention of some things like there's already when we talked about this previously, there's already been some work that started. There's been property that's been acquired. There's been demolition that's taken place. This is, I don't know. It's interesting. It will be more clear for us and for those who are paying attention once we begin to get feedback from the county commissioners as to what was really being discussed. Because at this point, it's all speculative for us.
Well, the bottom line, Teach, the footprint of the location is too small.
Right.
It's too small. Now, the county has a knack for building, and they just don't want to acquire all the land for the development project. If you look at the Department of Social Service and the Health Department, I don't know the name of that street, but there's about several houses on that street and about one house on Hillsbury Street that the county didn't even purchase. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like, they always want to just fit it and not look at growth there. So the county has a knack for building projects like that. And my concern of it is, uh, the location just doesn't fit well with many people,
Yeah.
in Fayetteville. So I think that 1,000 pages, that's a lot, for a 30 days report.
Yeah.
And but then again, they can classify the whole thing as a client privilege. So we will never know.
Yeah.
So I just wish that whatever decision that is being made, remember that 35 million of the 45 million have already been spent.
Well, Mr. Floyd, Do you have any concerns that there's a 1,000-page document?
I mean, I would like, you know, that's a lot. That's a lot of information, that's compacted, in there. Because when you look at the vendors and all of that, whether or not they looked at and say the vendor A, B, or C, and whether or not the cost of that associated was it in line with what you call traditional cost. You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. But 1,000 page tells me that there's a lot of information in there, reference the documents that were provided to this agency by the county staff. Okay.
Yeah.
They are the one that houses the documents.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure that the attorney dissected those documents and looked at them, and may seen
And
some
they
things.
have the county hired an attorney that has plenty of resources. They hired Hutchinson,
Yeah.
and Hutchinson has one of the largest buildings going down Ramsey Street. So they had the resources to be able to really do the work, it would appear. And it
Well,
appears that they did the work.
that is what I'm saying. I mean, they probably took every invoice and dissected those invoices. And not to say they was correct or incorrect, but they looked at each one independently.
Do you think that we should expect to see additional litigation coming out of this? So maybe that there will be some suits filed as a result of what of this research?
They don't think that it's anything that was done improper, but it will raise some red flags.
Okay. Well, what else you want to talk about today? We talked about the mayoral. Oh, well, we didn't talk about the pool. We just talked about the person who had the front page. Mr.
Mm.
Floyd, what are your thoughts about the pool of mayoral candidates at this point?
I think that there would be at least two, not counting Councilperson Jensen, if she opt to run. And the mayor had mentioned that he is running unless he say that he is not running. And then there are going to be some more, at least 2 to 3 more individuals. So you might have a field anywhere of maybe 5 to 7 persons
Yeah,
running
and I
for.
think Kathy is actually serious this time. I think that whether Mitch decides to run or not, I think she's serious about moving forward with her intention to file to run for mayor.
Well, if not, this would be her second or third time, wanting to seek the office of the mayor, but for apparent reason have not.
Right.
So the greater the pool, the greater the division. I mean, the votes now.
Who do you see potentially gaining the favor of the community and emerging as a front runner? Can Do you feel like you can make that call this early, or do you think you need a
It's
little time?
it's too early until you see how each candidate is going to approach the office. Okay, how each candidate, it's just like with uh, the business person Fred. I read his what he would like to see, and many people would think that it was good until he got down there to the Dodge theory. You know, that was a little bit far-fetched there. But his concerns about how he wants to improve the quality of life in Fayetteville, was great until he got down to that point.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm just not confident that any of these candidates would be able to make a significant change in our community. I think that the trajectory is set. I think that what I've learned in politics is that regardless of party affiliation, regardless of what you say your priorities are, once you get in that office, it becomes a different ball game, and many people become corrupted by the illusion or the appearance of power and
well,
fame, essentially.
it's a funny thing that you mentioned that. I hear is it the council person is it Hondro,
Dino Hondros.
and I see Mrs. Green as they begin to communicate a lot as it relates to city programs and projects. But I don't see our minority candidates being consulted or talked with as it relates to the various programs and projects
Well,
that is.
Mr. Floyd, think about it. Think about the last 10 years. What have you heard come out of city government that has been policy driven, that has shifted the climate of our community? I mean, for a very long time, there was do business local, do business black, right? That was a big policy that was being pushed out of the city council. We are seeing the effects of that in some ways in a positive way. We're seeing the effects of that in some ways in a negative way. But in aside from that, on a grand scale, what is something that you've heard sweepingly come out of our council policy wise that has moved the needle for this community
Well, just recently,
significantly?
they said that as they begin to bid, vet it or bid projects, is that now they are going to look at those, I mean, that method from a different standpoint of view, because we hypothetically now, and Mrs. Green suggests that we do local, but at the same time, the contractors here in Fayetteville say when we bid, they underbid us, then they come back and say we need to increase that because of whatever ABC. But the bottom line of it is now is that they are saying that since we had contractors that comes in on Monday and walk away on Tuesday, that we are going to see if the contractor has the skill set and the financial resources to complete projects.
Yeah.
And then they mentioned that they may look at a third party to make sure that it's structurally sound. So they're looking at it from a different standpoint of view, so we don't run into the Muhammad type of work. And at the same time, you know, you're saying to the public that yes, he walked away from the job, but he completed the work that he sent in his invoice for. Okay. I just throw my hand up for that. I mean, he completed the work that he invoiced for.
Yeah.
It sound good when you're conveying that to the public, but
Yeah.
that person will basically know where she wants to walk away from a project.
Yeah. Mr. Floyd, one of the other things that we were discussing is a letter from we're y'all if I didn't tell y'all, we're just talking current events today. We're just chatting it up. One of the other things that we were discussing was this letter that had been posted on Facebook from a former member of the Democrat Party. The letter wasn't scathing, but it was a rebuke. And I will post the contents of the letter. It was sent to me via email, so I can't post the Facebook link, but I'm going to copy and paste right now the contents of that letter onto our Facebook page. But I want to know what your thoughts are about this.
Well, many of us, have read it, and it's nothing really new. You know, it's that finally someone is sharing the information and
They're
giving,
saying the quiet part out loud.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm
and
actually going
giving,
to share it on the screen, Mr. Floyd. I can share it on the screen so we can kind of go through it if you'd like.
okay,
So tell me when you can see it.
okay, okay. What she is basically saying is, in summary, is that the party is overlooking its base.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way to summarize that. And it talk about where we are today with the appeals court race. It's wherein that one young lady that was also running for the appeal court is that she got very little money. So that's
And
nothing
that was
new.
Carolyn Thompson, correct?
Yes, yes.
So this, I think this line is so provocative. It says the stench of betrayal does not come suddenly. It creeps in with decisions cloaked in strategy, whispered in donor meetings, and executed with surgical political cruelty.
Hmm. I mean,
Mr.
that's
Floyd,
what.
that's such a profound listen. When you hear that, you hear the reality of what the party is doing to each other, and it's
Well,
not just it's keep go ahead, Mr. Floyd.
no, it's nothing. Teach, I've been saying this for years. So, it's finally that other people are echoing that. It started back in 2020 when we had Yvonne Harley, and we have Mrs. The young lady that just ran for the auditor position,
Mm-hmm.
and there was another African American that ran for Commission of Labor. They got no financial support. Okay, so it
Mm-hmm.
started back then, and
And
then
we
it
even
jumped.
heard, listen, we even heard our guest who was on with us last week or the week before indicate that the $100 that you got was 100 more than he's ever received.
Yeah, I mean, so but they want, but we are the base of the Democrat Party, the minority community. That's the base. But you can't blame the party for treating minority Democrats the way that they treat us, because power concedes to no one unless a demand is placed on it. We as minority have not followed that demand. We simply want to do it, as I always say to your friend, we simply want to fit in to sit in.
And the author of this letter said, we have long known that Black candidates do not receive equitable funding from Democratic coffers. We are
Yes.
told to wait our turn, to work the grassroots, and to win hearts, not wallets. That is almost word for word the messaging that Robert Reeves shared with us that comes out of the party.
Hmm. I mean, it started this year with a simply, I'm gonna say, around $50,000 with Evelyn Clayton. When the budget was presented, they took that $50,000 out in order for that money can be spread, as it relates to campaign support. $50,000, and that was to assist minority candidates that may want to look at party affiliation and all, and going forward. So and we saw it in the last election when they did not fund two African American and one person from Cumberland County. We saw that. And given the judge race, there were three minorities that didn't receive any campaign contribution. That's
Absolutely.
why she's left, and I know about 10 other person has changed their party affiliation. And that don't mean that they will not support the Democrat Party. What they're saying is that uh, we will leave certain offices
Well,
blank.
Mr. Floyd, the truth is that's exactly what that means is that they're no longer supporting the party, that they're doing what they should have been doing all along, and that is looking at the people holistically to decide who earns their vote. She goes on to say when governors, puppet master consultants, and high ranking officials hoard massive war chests, while down ballot candidates, especially Black ones, are left to campaign with crumbs, we must ask what kind of general sends warriors to the front line with butter knives while Republicans brandish weapons of mass electoral destruction. She outlays how the Republicans are actually funding their foot soldiers and that they are making sure that their people are getting the dollars. I don't know. We don't ever really have a lot of Republicans speak out and talk about this, but this is very, very telling. This is very telling, Mr. Floyd. This individual says, I left the Democratic Party like Fannie Lou Hamer because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mhm.
I remain independent in name and prophetic in purpose until the strategy matches the values and the funding matches the rhetoric.
Well, going into the 26th election, there, as you well know, uh, my party is going to have to do a lot of healing for that off-season election.
Mr.
And the
Flood, I
one
don't
with
think y'all have it. I don't think y'all have time to do the healing that's needed within that party.
it's going to be a, a lot of healing that's going to need to take place given the last two election cycle. The black the minority community has been extremely frustrated, and now with the media sources,
There's
the
no
information.
there's no real investment into making changes in the black community. And I use the black community because that's the term that is synonymous with the way people experience those of us with this kind of skin tone. There's no real investment in that. Listen, Mr. Floyd, under the administration of Barack Obama, the LGBTQ community bolstered. It was reinforced and reaffirmed under the Biden administration. Now under this, and they leveraged the messaging that came out of the civil rights movement on behalf of men and women with the complexion that looks like mine and yours. Now we see this administration touting that the greatest health crisis is anti-Semitism. There's never been a statement made like that on behalf of us. And so we should really start asking ourselves, why are we loyal to the political process in general? Because everything that comes out of these administrations, be they Democrat or Republican, is never intended to make a change or move the needle for men and women that look like us. This system is not made for our benefit. And everybody, even when, and you see, I got these are some of my favorite earrings, All Lives Matter. Because when the Black Lives Matter movement came out, I recognized the destruction of that movement when it came to the community that looked like people like me, because it was being leveraged by people that had no real interest in investing into the progression of men and women that look like me. We are bamboozled by people's words. I am so grateful to see this letter to recognize that people are waking up and they're beginning to see that this is bull crap and that it's not real, that it's not true. It's ineffective, it's inefficient, it's a lie. It ain't for us, it ain't helping us. And I will be so glad to see people make a mass exodus, not just out of the party structure, but out of the politically aligned culture in general. When I left Floyd, I said to everybody, I don't believe in this system anymore. I served with men and women that look like us, Floyd. I was on the blackest council ever, and we didn't do anything to move that. We set policy, and we didn't set any policies that protected people that look like me and you. We didn't even make an attempt to do that.
Well, at least one thing that y'all gave me a commitment on, and I thank you for that. You and it's still going on today. Is that you say to me that we are going to revitalize the Murchison Road Garden once we get the grants.
Yeah, and I'm just a firm believer that people need to start revitalizing their own communities. We need to start beautifying our own
But we're
communities.
gonna do
People
that when
on
we get the
Murchison Road
grants.
are not
We
Mr.
gonna
Floyd, those people that live in Broadale are not broke.
Ortiz, we're gonna do that when we get the grants. Why don't you be a little patient? I mean, we're not gonna use any city money,
No.
no, but we're gonna revitalize it when we get grants. Now, these grants mean that we are competing with other cities, but I still want you to hold on to that hope. Okay, I mean,
Gonna write on the ground. We'll write on the ground and leave this old raggedy painted stuff on the ground. So y'all
well,
can
let
have
me give you
your
another.
crumbs. You can have crumbs, but we're not gonna make any meaningful. And we had a beautiful trifecta because we had, and when I say we, I mean men and women that look like me and you. We had a beautiful trifecta because the majority of the judicial representation looked like us, Floyd. The
Yeah,
majority of the the city legislative team looked like me and you, Floyd. The
Mhm.
majority of the county commissioners looked like me and you, Floyd. And
Yeah.
we have not done anything. We were afraid to make any substantial policy that eradicated the opportunity. I'm just over it. Like,
Well,
and I'm
well,
gonna be honest
okay.
with you, I don't even know if there's a policy because you can't legislate hate away. So there's not even really a policy. Like, we didn't even come together well enough to be able to say, y'all, this is unrealistic. Like, to tell the public the truth that is unrealistic that you can. Well, I take that back because they're doing it for everybody else because they made rules that penalized the crap out of people for misgendering somebody. They made rules that penalized the crap out of somebody for not allowing boys to play in girls' sports. They're making rules that penalize the crap out of people for saying anything against people who are not even nationals of the United States of America. But heaven forbid if we make a rule that does any of this for men and women that look like me and you.
Well, let me bring you back to the subject with this lady.
Bring
This
us back, Floyd.
this is just a indicator. I want you to just look at this now. And we said it in the beginning of our program, and I picked at you and I asked you, were you going to moderate this? This is a town hall meeting with the congressional leaders, okay,
Yeah,
and then some of our local politicians.
yeah,
And it's going to be at the VFW.
yeah,
You know where the VFW is?
yeah.
Is it not in our community?
It absolutely is.
So why could you not have this meeting on the other zip code?
Mr. Floyd, we make decisions that are not strategic. We make decisions that are comfortable. We don't make strategic decisions. And I want to put a bow on what I said because I appreciate you pivoting us. I want to put a bow on what I said and say this. I'm no longer interested in fighting for anybody's experience other than mine as a believer. So I am always going to bear this skin until I leave this earth. But when I leave this earth, Floyd, I got a whole eternity to live. And I'm either going to live it in heaven or hell. And the however many years I live on this earth in this skin does not compare to the eternity that I have to live after this life. So I'm fighting now for my experiences as a believer. So if you are doing anything that contradicts what the word of God says, you do not have my support.
Well,
Period.
well, Tish, you know the. I remember back in the early campaigning
Mm-hmm.
that persons from the other zip code will be a pathway to the African American church.
Beat it down, baby. Beat it
Be-
down.
Finally, finally now, the African American churches are not opening the doors to allow those politicians to
They
come
shouldn't
in
be allowing any politicians to come.
once a year. I mean, once every election cycle
Yeah, they
to
shouldn't allow
revel
any of us
and
to come.
dazzle them.
If you don't come to this church on a regular basis to hear the word of God, don't come in here so we can hear your word. If you don't come in here and bring your tithe and your offering to support the ministry and the mission that we are on, do not come in here and expect for us to support you with our resources.
But that's the biggest change. That's the biggest change that I've seen in the 24 in a decade and a half as it relates to not open the doors to these individuals to come in and say a few words. You know, my thing of it is that when I would go to a church, I didn't want to get up and say anything.
Me neither, Floyd.
Okay, I
Me
didn't want to
neither.
do that. But when a person goes to church, I don't went through H all week. You see what I'm saying? I'm coming to get
I want to hear about
rejuvenated.
Jesus. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't want to hear
I'm
about your
coming to get
platform.
rejuvenated. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that's what I'm coming for, and not to hear a person to razzle and dazzle me when he knows or she knows
And
that.
these people are not even Christians coming into these churches. And that's crazy. I remember Floyd, and I'm not going to say any names because I love like with my whole heart, I love this person. But I remember sitting in a church and watching a person who had no identity with the Christian faith come to a Christian church in order to politic, and
Mhm.
was so out of their element because they didn't even understand the dynamic of the Christian church, because they were not a member of the Christian faith. I would think it's so disrespectful if I went into a Hindu tabernacle, or if I went into a Muslim mosque as a Christian politician. I would think that's so disrespectful and I'd be so uncomfortable. But in our churches, but this is the problem. We have people in these positions of leadership in churches who are not really protecting the faith. They're not protecting the people of faith. They're selling out their seats. Because
Well,
Mr. Floyd, there's no, you could never.
well, Tish, I can recall one Sunday. Now this is a real mover, that a person came in our community and went to four churches in
In a
one Sunday
day.
and a day, and they had some of our leaders escorting them around. And you know what they were saying, Tish? I didn't know that I was that important. That you came into the community and went to four churches, that asked those four churches to talk with me to support your budget that you vetoed, and that you signed 10 plus many appropriation bills from
Yeah.
that budget that you vetoed. But I mean, you went to four churches. Now that's a lot of gossip. Now, yeah, I
That's
mean, that's a lot of spiritual thing. You went. So only thing that you did, you went in, you made
wave,
your
gave
appeal,
your message and went on about your
yeah,
business.
and you went to another one.
Hmm.
Okay. Now that's four churches now. Okay. But you went there because that's where the base is. We are a very religious
And
body.
we don't even understand. Like the problem with us is that we give everybody else our power.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, but what I found out in past election and in our community, it goes to just one thing, and I know you heard me say it many times. Not whether or not you could be Amazon, or FedEx. It's can you walk that? I guess y'all call it the runway or the boardwalk, whatever y'all call it.
The
When
catwalk.
yeah, when you're having the fashion shows, that's all
Yeah.
we want you to do.
Yeah.
That's all we want you to do. We don't want you to deliver nothing. But when you go to Amazon and order something, Amazon let you know when it's going to be delivered.
Hmm.
But us, we're just happy just to have, and I always thought seasoned politicians would look at persons who has experience that will help them generate the kinds of things that they need in their community. How in the world can you ask a first time person to assist you in your economic venture?
Like when
The
they went to
first time.
like when they went to France and took all those new people over there with them, and didn't bring anything. But okay, Mr. Floyd. So the author of that letter, that text, was talking about the the impact of not supporting candidates and how it is affecting our court system. And one of the things that's going on is that there are people, over 65,000 votes that are potentially going to be tossed out,
Mhm.
based upon whatever the North Carolina Court of Appeals decides, right?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Floyd, you did share with me. I'm going to share it on our screen. You shared with me the Griffin list, which
Mhm.
is where people can go to find out whether or not they are on the list of potential people to be tossed out. So, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So here's where you can go. You can go to the Griffin List, GRIFFINLIST.com, and you can simply scroll down and hit go to search, and it will take you into this page where you will put your information in, and it will tell you whether or not your vote has been tossed out. So I'll give you an example. I'll put in my name and hit search. and my name does not pop up, which means that my vote was legitimately counted.
Hmm.
If your
Now
name
that
pops up, Floyd, what should you do?
you should go by the board of election and make the necessary correction. It's different. Some people didn't have driving license, phone numbers, or whatever, so that you can vote can be counted and you can vote in the next election. It's my understanding that a little over 7,000 of that six plus thousand are in Cumberland County. In fact, my pastor husband name was on that list, and one of the deacons of our church was on that list, and they have been voting for 13 years.
Yeah. So here's Cumberland County's contact information for the Board of Elections. Angela Amaro, phone number 910-678-7733. Board of Elections at cumberlandcountync.gov. So if you find your name on the list and you need to reach out, that is who you will need to connect with.
And they will tell you what is needed to make your ballot, make your registration, sound. I'm gonna use the word sound or
And we
hold.
tell people, we told them at the start of this election, Mr. Floyd, especially when I went in and I recognized that they had me inactive on the voter registration list, which was absolutely an error because I have voted in every election prior to this one, at least for the last 6 years or so, and they had me as inactive, and I had to
That's
go.
why. That's why it's best to do early voting.
Yes, so you can check your stuff out.
You can check your stuff out and you have time to make the necessary correction because they're saying after, I think after every one or two presidential election, they merge the list. So
And it's also smart to not vote by those provisional ballots, because if you're doing a mail-in ballot, you don't get the luxury of checking out all your stuff. So I know a lot of Democrats were pushing for people to early vote, and even this time some Republicans, I mean not early vote, but to do these write-in ballots. But I'm gonna say, unless you absolutely have no other way, let that be your last choice.
well, and then the date that it must be received, that window, the grace period is not there.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so it had to be that. I think it's uh, the close of the business day on the last day of the election.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'll take my chances on going early. I don't take my chance now of voting on election day because one of my tires may be flat.
Anything could happen.
Yeah, anything you see.
So we are seeing a lot of people responding to some of the national headlines. And Mr. Floyd, I want to encourage people that even as you're looking at the national stuff that's going on, don't take your eyes off of what's happening right here at home. Stay attentive to what's happening in the city of Fayetteville. Stay attentive to what's happening in Cumberland County. Stay attentive to what is happening in the state of North Carolina, because we are experiencing some things that have the potential and the capacity to shift our communities in a direction that is going to be very difficult for us to recover from. Mr. Floyd, do you have anything that you want to talk to these people about before we get up out of here today?
No, the same thing I always say that I started now. Remember that if that dog bark and bring a bone, truly he will carry one, and that will be you.
Absolutely. And I will say, I do want to, I forgot to make mention of this when it first launched. Councilwoman Courtney Banks McLaughlin and her family have launched an initiative to raise at least $10,000 through Cumberland Community Foundation on behalf of their daughter, Coriana Young. Coriana lost her life tragically in 2021, in October of 2021. And this year, she would have been a senior at 71st High School. They are raising money for a fund at the Cumberland Community Foundation, which will provide ongoing support at 71st High School to the JROTC program in honor of Coriana Young. If you find it in your heart to support this family and to help them as they continue to grieve the loss of their daughter by establishing this memorial fund, please visit Cumberland Community Foundation or send us a message and we will send you the information. In fact, I will post it on our Upzone Facebook page. I'll post the link that you can go in and make a contribution. Contributions of any amount are appreciated, but most certainly, the more you can give, the easier you make it on the family to be able to reach their target of at least $10,000. This is not, look, this is not a one and done. This is something that once we help them meet this goal, the interest will continue to provide residual gifts to 71st High School in perpetuity. And we always say that we want to support people in our community who experience tragedy or hardships. This is your opportunity to do so. So again, on behalf of Councilwoman Courtney Banks McLaughlin and her family, her husband Melvin and their children, please consider supporting the Coriana Treasure Young Memorial Fund at Cumberland Community Foundation. Again, I'll link that on our Facebook page. Mr. Floyd, I don't have anything else to say. This has been a very impassioned conversation for me today because I really am pissed off about how people keep trying to make us be so interested in political stuff when political stuff really isn't helping us. And when I say interested, let me say this: so invested in who is in these seats when the people in these seats are not really doing anything to make a difference for us on a large scale. And so, yeah, I'm watching because I want to know what you're up to, and I want to know what I need to make sure people understand about you. We need to be very, very clear. Everybody black is not a monolith. We are not all having the same experience. And people, just because they smile in your face, don't mean they're your friend. And it doesn't mean they're for you. And as Mr. Floyd said, a dog who will bring a bone will carry one. God bless you. God keep you. That is my prayer. If you don't know who he is, ask somebody. And on that note, we will catch you on the next episode. Looks like we're clear, sir.